Welcome you to our City Commission study session. We ask that you turn off or silence all cell phones. Our meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 6 p.m. and at midnight, also available for viewing on YouTube. We have 3 items on tonight's study session. The first item is the presentation of the 2022 audit.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, thank you. I'd like to introduce Michael Keenan from Hooda Associates, who will present the 2022 audit.
Thank you, Paul.
Michael.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
I think I got here before the rain.
It's coming, I think.
I saw
Yeah.
some pretty good sized hail or lightning coming around.
Oh, wow.
But good evening again. My name is Michael Keenan. I'm with the auditing firm of Hooda Associates, here to present the results of the financial and compliance audit for the year ended December 31, 2022. And you should have received 3 different documents. The larger document is the annual comprehensive financial report, which is your financial statements, as well as notes to those financial statements, and some statistical data in the back, which shows 10 years worth of information. It's very valuable. Also, the single audit, which is the audit of your federal programs. And lastly, our required communications and management letter. And I've got a little PowerPoint presentation that I'll go over. It will summarize kind of the results of the audit, and then I'll open up the floor to questions. Assuming I can work this. A little bit about Hooda Associates. We've been serving Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. We also go what's called a peer review. That's where an outside independent auditing firm will come in and review our quality control standards. And we've been awarded the highest rating as a result of that peer review. We're members of professional organizations, including the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the AICPA, and also the AICPA Government Audit Quality Center. Those organizations dictate how we and other auditors perform audit engagements for governmental entities. Also, one member, which happens to be me, is a member of the Special Audit Team, the GFOA Special Review Committee, and Hooda Associates is licensed in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. The scope of the audit, again, is the annual comprehensive financial report, the large document. And it should be noted that the city has received and been awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association for 28 consecutive years, which is a very prestigious award, and not a lot of governmental entities qualify for that award. And the 2002 financial statement is going to be submitted for that award. We believe that it will also qualify. So, again, to get that award, you have to have easily readable financial statements that contain a transmittal letter, basic financial statements, notes to those statements, and the statistical information. Also, the scope of our audit was a single audit. Again, audited your federal programs, and we had one federal program that met the threshold of excess of $750,000. That was a high-risk program, and that was the Section 8 housing choice vouchers. And we'll get to the results on our opinions and everything coming up. A little bit about our responsibilities as the auditors is to conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, as well as governmental auditing standards and the uniform guidance. Again, the uniform guidance dictates what we do related to your federal awards, and the general accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards relate to the financial statement audit. We're also responsible to plan and perform our audit to obtain reasonable but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatements. Again, what that means is we take a risk-based approach and make our selections of different disbursements or items that we confirm with third parties. But since we do not test 100% of the transactions, we can't provide absolute assurance. And finally, responsible to report on internal controls over financial reporting, as well as compliance with finance-related laws and regulations. The Auditing Standards Board of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, again, the AICPA, recommend that we communicate these matters to the governing board. First, illegal acts. None came to our attention as a result of us performing our audit procedures. Changes to significant accounting policies. The city did adopt Government Accounting Standards Board number 87 leases. You may recall we've said that that's coming up, been for the last 3 or 4 years. And what that relates to is the city had some leases receivable. We had some tower leases that you lease out. Previous to this accounting standard, you recorded those rentals when you received them. Under this accounting standard, you actually record the receivable for the net present value of those leases. And that amounted to approximately $306,000. And also, on the other hand, you have not as much where you lease copier equipment, or some of those used to be called operating leases, short-term leases. Again, those expenditures would be budgeted and shown as an expenditure. Now those are kind of capitalized as if you purchased it. It's called a right-to-use asset, and they're booked as one of your assets, and they're amortized over the life of the asset. So they've kind of gotten away and followed the private sector, and that's how they account for leases. There's really no operating leases. You may recall some of the things from years ago that got public companies into trouble when they were doing the off-balance sheet leasing. Enron seems to come to mind. So they've kind of taken care of that for the private sector as well as the governmental sector. We're also pleased to report we had no difficulties or disagreements with management, and we had full cooperation and access to the books and records. So a financial and compliant audit really addresses these 3 basic questions. The first question, are the financial statements free of material misstatement? And our response to that is we have issued an unmodified opinion that indeed the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects, which is included in this report. An unmodified opinion is commonly referred to as a clean opinion. That's the highest level of opinion that we can provide as external auditors on external financial statements of our clients. The second question that we address are internal controls over financial reporting adequately designed and operating effectively. And we're pleased to report that we did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls that we consider to be material weaknesses. Again, had we done so, we are required by our profession to report those, again, to management. And that's kind of a good thing that you don't have those, but internal controls are ever evolving processes as technology changes, as personnel changes. But that's a very positive that we didn't identify any of those. Finally, did the city comply in all material respects with finance-related laws and regulations? And our response to that is no. Non-compliance was noted with the finance-related laws and regulations that govern the city. The final document is kind of the required communications that kind of go over how the audit went, what I have summarized. But we have a couple recommendations regarding, the first one is like a best practices. It's key employees and cross-training. And we've been putting this recommendation in all of our governmental audits, is that the city should just identify what risk is the city exposed to having key employees, again, that spend a large portion of their career working for the city, and then an unanticipated absence, retirement, sickness, when COVID came about, some of those things. So we're saying evaluate that, cross-train, and try to eliminate that exposure, at least identify it. A lot of what we've seen, a lot of governments and private industries for that matter, is kind of kick that can down the road. They don't think about it until it's time, something happened. So that's the best practice recommendation.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Pardon me?
That last statement, will you repeat that? I don't quite understand what you're saying about, what are we cross-training?
I'm just saying you should consider cross-training individuals, so if there's an unexcused or unintended absence, sickness,
Got it.
or something, I don't want to use the term hit by a bus.
Okay. Just so there's coverage.
But it's something that happens that you just can't anticipate. It could be an illness. They have to go away. I mean,
Okay.
the city's in good shape. I'm not saying they're not. But I'm just saying those are things to consider, to evaluate, if there are some areas that you might need to enhance that cross-training or identify those areas.
Okay, thank you.
And then the final recommendation, again, we have future accounting pronouncements. And believe it or not, we're down to 5. If you may recall, it was quite a list for a long number of years. The one that may have an impact on the city is GASB number 96, subscription-based informational technology arrangements. Or it's similar to the leases. If you're renting or leasing software, it's going to come on as a right to use that asset and amortize it. Again, some of these leases can be significant annual cash outflows, and they're just wanting to be consistent for external users of financial statements that people are reporting those same transactions on the same way. And we certainly appreciate the opportunity to serve as the auditors for the city of Leavenworth. A special thanks to Paul, city manager, and Roberta, and staff at the city. Again, very professional, and assisted us in getting the information that we requested, and has helped draft all the reports, which is good. We don't always have that. So very, very positive. It's always nice when we come and do auditing versus having to come and do the books and then audit ourselves. It can cause problems at times, so we're very thankful. So that concludes my presentation. Are there any questions I might be able to respond to?
Thank you, sir. Questions?
Sounds good to me. I don't have any other.
You guys, it's a good job. It starts here.
Yep.
You guys are the ones that are responsible for that, and, they always say the tone at the top, and we see that when we do our inquiries and that, so, thumbs up as far as that goes.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, enjoy your evening. If you do have questions at some other time, certainly you can get my contact information from Roberta, and hope you have a good rest of the evening.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. Have a good one.
Second item on the agenda. Consideration of Leavenworth Main Street budget requests.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, we just had one item remaining from last week's budget update. At the last week's meeting, the Commission reviewed, among other items, the budget request from Main Street. Just as a reminder, in 2023, the City Commission allocated $39,250 to Leavenworth Main Street. For 2024, Leavenworth Main Street requested a 43% increase for a total city funding of $56,000. At the July 11th meeting, the Commission requested further information from Main Street regarding the proposed use of the increase of requested funds. I'd like to thank Debbie, Main Street, and the Main Street team. They turned that around really quickly and gave the documents that you see before you now. So all we're looking for is just a consensus. The options are really endless, but kind of in 3 camps, I put it: maintaining 2023 funding, select an increase at a lower level, something like 15% increase or a 20% increase, something like that, or provide the full funding as requested. So this is really a simple consensus. We will fold this into the agenda. This does not affect the mill levy. This does not affect the budget in any material way. These are paid for out of economic development funds, so we don't have to take any other cuts or subsequent action in the budget. This is simply just a consensus and then a budget line item within economic development.
I do appreciate that. I mean, thank you very much. I mean, a lot of this does outline the questions I had. It was pretty detailed. Some things I know you're not gonna have an exact dollar amount until you go down the project road, so you gotta have the funds there, but this answers the questions that I had, so
Great.
I'm fine with.
And we do have Debbie Deere here if there's any other
come up with
questions.
Do anyone have any questions for her?
No.
So do we have a consensus to move forward with the amount requested, or?
I just need 3 on one
Yeah.
page.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I'm good on that.
Yep,
As requested?
yep,
Okay, as requested.
yep.
We have
Yeah, I was gonna
consensus.
go with 15 or 20%, but that's, yeah. That's, I'll go with
What's
with
request?
the majority.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Ms. Debbie. Last item on the agenda, city manager project update.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commission. I know that with a shorter agenda tonight, as we get into the summer months, sometimes we lose track of where we are with some of the projects, and we've been getting a lot of questions lately, so I figured I'd just sort of take 10 or 15 minutes to have a discussion with the commission about some upcoming projects as we move through the second half of the year, and some questions that we've certainly been getting in my office. So I want to start with the positive stuff, Parks and Recreation items. We have been getting a lot of questions past the budget discussions about the Cody Park Sports Court project. So I just clear up a few things. No design has been determined yet. Design contract late this summer. That funding has already been authorized for design work in 2023. We will have public meetings in the fall, early fall, to get input from the public on kind of what they want to see out there. We want this to be what the public wants. Q3, Q4 with construction in spring of 24. Some things that we know, that we've heard for this, I think this has been on the table for 4 or 5 years, is pickleball. You know, it's the largest growing sport in the country, you know, some say, and it's very popular indoor and outdoor. We have quite a bit of use of that. So, but we don't have dedicated pickleball courts. So I know it's pretty popular in the Kansas City area. We're looking at potentially maintaining 1 tennis court at that location. We still only have the 1 basketball location in the city. We've been looking at a basketball location in the south part of the city for some time now, so that makes a lot of sense out there. Certainly lighting, new lighting out there, more energy efficient lighting for safety and security as well. Seating has been a question we have out there. And then, you know, some stuff that hasn't even been considered yet. Is there a practice area? Somebody asked, would there still be an opportunity for a place for somebody to hit tennis balls off of to practice and return? Shade structures out there for people watching or waiting. So that's all stuff we really hope to get input when we do the public meetings, the community center and maybe the fire station early spring. So any discussion or talk about questions about the sports court project, we'll certainly put that on all the city social media and website, plenty of advance for those public meetings so we can get a lot of good feedback.
Yeah.
And again, budget will determine some of this.
Well, as far as the
than what we
practice
have.
area, I don't think it needs to be designated separate practice area like at Brewer Park.
Right,
There's just a board that you can hit off of,
yeah.
and it's attached to the fence, so, you know, I don't think that's any,
Sure.
but yeah, that's nice to have. It is
Right.
nice to have. But I don't think it would have to be a separate practice area is what I'm saying.
And I think kind of like the downtown 4th Street, there'll be some ideas and then our design will take those ideas and kind of bring something certainly to you all to have feedback on as we move through the design process. And no other questions on that. Havens Park, so as we look to explore that, another very popular sport is disc golf. Just looking at some initial data, the Disc Golf Association indicates that as many people have joined in the last 4 years as did the first 40 years that it existed. There are more than 5 million active disc golfers in the United States. And in the metro, it's taken off. Bonner Springs has a well-known, it's called Cedar Point or Cedar Ridge disc golf course. Lenexa just opened one. And so just to get some more information for you all as we explore outdoor and activities and cost-effective ways to do outdoor and activities, we do have the person who designed some of these regional courses coming up to walk Havens Park with our staff this month and explore maybe some other parks where maybe a disc golf. There's tournaments across the metro. I've learned more about disc golf in the last 30 days than I ever thought I would, but it's a very popular sport right now, outdoor activities.
Guess COVID kickstarted it.
I think that's right, and I think, people really started to enjoy it, and it's exploded. Sports field, we're reviewing some cost and options to bring to the commission, obviously not for necessarily in 2024, because our budget's pretty much set, but maybe if we can do some low-cost stuff, or look at 25 for expanding the skate park or renovating it. It's, it's showed some age on it now, but if you go out there any night of the week, there's youth out there, and they really enjoy that, so that's something we're looking at. And then just another good partnership that the city has is the Leavenworth Soccer Association. The commission did a lot of work, I think last year, on kind of reformatting that agreement, and so this year we had an automatic renewal if both parties were interested, and it went well, so we renewed the agreement with the Leavenworth Soccer Association, and they're doing, their numbers I think are looking pretty good, so a lot of stuff as we move in. And then the one thing I didn't put on here is we're finalizing some numbers on that gazebo project in the downtown that we talked about during goal setting, so we'll bring you some information. But the park staff has just been, with sports seasons and maintenance, they've been a little bit behind, so, but we'll get you some information on that pretty soon, so. We also are gonna bring this fall some trails options to look at the trails program for 2024, so we can put that out to bid in January, so we can get really going and with the allocation that the commission's put in the capital budget for trails for next year. So some of the options you've seen before, and maybe a couple of new options. So that's what I had for Parks and Recreation, unless there's any specific questions related to those amenities. So in Public Works, just a few quick things, a refuse update. So we did complete the deliveries of all the trash carts. We are at 96% Friday, and they finished those up. The rules are online. We've had them on social media. We've had them on the refuse homepage. We've had them on the city homepage. I would say if you have specific questions, continue to call the service center. It's 682-0650. We get, a couple dozen calls a day. Most are just asking for information, and we're able to handle those pretty quickly. The go live for the rules, the new rules with the loose items, is July 31st. Even though we're done with the trash, we wanted to make sure that we gave, again, some more and enough time. But at some point you have to turn the switch. And so July 31st is when, no loose items. And so we're communicating that. And there's been a couple questions I've heard, and if you have any questions, now is a fine time to discuss those. Is sometimes it looks like the refuse worker may be pulling the bag out. Well, we have a little bit of help right now from Brothers on a contract basis to help us with our routes. Their trucks aren't equipped to tip. And so if you see a smaller trash truck that's lifting a bag out, it's the Brothers crew. We're doing better on staffing, but we're still a little bit behind, a little bit understaffed. So we were able to use a little bit of contract help from Brothers. But other than that, it seems to be going well in its early stages. Any questions? Oh, we did have a question. We've had a lot of inquiries. Can they have two bins? Can they buy a second one? That wasn't something I don't think that we considered. And so we're kind of looking at how that would work. Would it be a different color because you buy that one, so that's yours now? Because the city, hadn't contemplated offering two. But the residents that we've had asked if they could purchase a second one. So we'll figure that out. We're keeping a list of those who have requested it. At this time, we did indicate to them they can put out endless numbers of bags along with their trash carts. But we may collect some of those questions and then come to you for some guidance on that.
So the only question I had is if the carts gets damaged, is the resident responsible repairing it, replacing it, or do they just contact the city?
They can contact the city. So we have replacement parts, and we have a few replacement wheels and lids and stuff like that. We would really ask residents to take as much care of them as you can.
Yeah.
Treat them as though they were something you purchased. Bring them back in at night. Don't let them stay out there. But we will have some replacement parts and some replacement units if circumstances dictate. We certainly don't want to have a cost to the residents, but within reason. And then the big one for the summer is pavement management. That starts next month. Next month is in 2 weeks, but it'll start sometime in August. The streets on the left are the mill and overlay. That's the full 2-inch depth and asphalt. Streets on the right are all the microsurfacing that we're doing throughout the community. So it'll be an active August as we go through our road projects, continuing with public works. We did get 4th Street on KDOT's fall bid letting schedule, which is really good news. That was dependent on those easements. We had 19 easements at one point, and so we're to the point now where KDOT has agreed to put it on their letting schedule, which is their bid schedule. So we'll know, maybe hopefully know the contractor by the end of the year who's working on that project, and then start setting up some informational meetings with all those affected. We do have a grant pending for a 4th Street mill and overlay from Marion to Poplar. I was hoping to have word today. We're just sort of waiting on the governor's office to announce those grants through the Secretary of Transportation. That would be a state-funded mill and overlay of the entirety of 4th Street, all 4 lanes from Marion to Poplar. So the state did tour the site, their evaluation team, so we don't know yet, but we're very hopeful for that. And then in probably 2, maybe 4 weeks, the commission will consider a design contract or a consultant agreement for the Safe Streets for All. That is 100%, 90% federally funded. We talked about these. Now a lot of these federal grant opportunities require these studies to be done first, even to be eligible for these federal dollars. So Earl, when he was here as a Deputy Public Works Director, got this grant for us from the federal government. And so we're just selecting the consultant, and we'll bring that contract to the city for consideration. And that will open up the city for a lot of federal transportation type project grants, walkability, pedestrian safety, but also potentially road projects and bridge projects. As we kind of, met as staff today, talked about a few things that are also on the forefront. So the transit program continues to grow. We obviously don't have June numbers yet. We are up to 1,100 riders in the month of June, 83 new riders. And so at some point, I think we'll see a bit of a plateau, because I think the market is, then the next step is, would expanding the hours at some point then be the next logical expansion, or, expanding to a Saturday or something like that. So probably after the 6-month mark, we'll look at the data, we'll see how the numbers are looking, but it's certainly being used, and the app downloads are continuing to happen pretty frequently.
When we should be able to find out from the guidance center how many people are calling, asking for certain hours of the day or days of the week.
And the amount of data we have is really staggering, because they can track everything. This is just a very high-level dashboard. So probably a study session in September, October, once we've had 6 months under our belt, and we'll really dig into the data, who's calling when and where are they going. We can really track that program, every aspect of it.
That's good.
We have everything. Fire Station 3, I believe, is tentatively on for next week. Is that still on for next week, Sarah? So that's the contract to move forward. We've had some really good fire and public works staff have been meeting design charrettes and amenities lists and pictures and tours, and so really getting a long way down the road on Fire Station 3 in the wastewater admin building. It's kind of an exciting one. The city is working with a group. It's a faith-based coalition, but it's a non-faith-based job fair. But this group is putting it on for City Fellowship and West Side and some other ones. And they're working with a job placement sort of nonprofit, and looking at holding a job fair at the community center on October 5th for any and all employers in the city of Leavenworth. And they're gonna have some requirements that you have to have like a hiring manager on site. I mean, they really want businesses that are serious about and do some outreach ahead of time to help with resumes and professional development. So a good example of maybe partnering with an organization that we don't have to do everything. We can partner with somebody who's interested in that. So we'll kind of see how this first one goes. I'm kind of interested to see. So that would be October 5th at the community center in the gym. See what kind of turnout we get. And then year 2 of the City Small Business Symposium is Monday, October 23rd. Penny is hard at work at that already, getting speakers and programs. I know we've heard some interest on the city side, talking about licensing and regulations and the A's and B's, but also, getting from the state level and other partners, business development and business growth, and how you can do more business in the city of Leavenworth. So more information on the Small Business Symposium as it gets a little bit closer, but we're excited about the second year of that program, so.
Cool.
So those are sort of some of the highlights of stuff staff's working on in the second half of the year. Obviously, I didn't include something like Camp Leavenworth and all the programs. Those are kind of so big. We'll have individual updates on those as we get a little bit closer.
Any update on the Wilson Avenue street project?
So Wilson Avenue, that is the potential CARES Act or ARPA Act funding behind what now is the expanded Zephyr. So Zephyr's made that public now. Zephyr has invested massively in that complex back there, that light industrial complex, and even moved a business that they had, a sister business in Missouri, moved it over to Leavenworth. They're having trouble with Wilson Avenue with their trucks accessing services. So we had the on-site meetings with them, with our engineer. I believe they're just about done with the options. We asked them to give us a couple different options, a full, something just to the south, just to the north. So we'll get you maybe a study session or a staff report in the next couple weeks to show you where they do and see what the numbers end up with. I think that's what they were doing, is the final engineer's estimate on potential costs for those projects. Anything over anything I've mentioned or any other projects?
Are you all done?
No, sounds good.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Questions about that?
Minnesota,
You got something?
you might know more than anybody else. We got anything on the growth or the establishment of Big Brothers Big Sisters?
Yes, so they actually have hired the director for this area, and they're still currently in training right now. And I believe we should be hearing some information from them, I want to say maybe next month, so.
Good, thank you.
Paul, real quick, just question going back to the Main Street budget request. Would it be possible working this in, getting into, you know, January when we get into 2024 and everything, maybe if we could work with Debbie to get kind of we'll have had some good time to get together a baseline of everything that they're doing. And I just would like to see kind of how this extra $16,000 is actually really impacting them. Not saying it won't, but I'd like to see, is it worth it? So when we're talking 2025 budgets, we're not like, well, you know, we established this increase, like, no, we don't have to keep that there. You know, we might want to drop it down again, just if we don't, you know, if there's any way to measure that $16,000 going forward. I know it's not a lot of money, but
Sure.
percentage-wise, it's still
We could
significant.
benchmark it against sort of the information they
Yeah,
provided.
if we could, and just, you know, it'd be
It sounds like what you're looking for is some kind of metrics that are solid, and you can see measuring against those metrics to see, are we really getting results out of this?
Well, yeah, I mean, because I think some of this stuff should be pretty easy to measure as far as numbers go and everything like that. And just again, when we're looking at this line item again, and for 2025, just want to know if it really had any
Yeah,
major
she
impact
does give
or
us a
not.
report, so if we compare it year by year, that might be helpful.
Yeah, something that we could compare, yeah.
Yeah, we can hone in a little bit too on the extra funding and just ensure that basically what's in there is happening.
Yeah, that would be a great thing too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Appreciate it. Okay.
Well, there's no other questions or comments. Before we close the meeting out, just go around the table to see if there's any updates, starting with City
No,
Manager.
I provided my
Yeah,
updates.
okay, you guys, no more.
Commissioner Leonard?
No, I don't have anything.
I think we've got a pretty good load of updates.
Yeah, it's been a long day, I can tell, for everybody. Commissioner Martin?
I just have to, no, I don't have anything major, just I guess kind of a follow-up from a couple weeks ago. Just asking if there would be any, you know, talking about the movie, that's gonna be shown at Woolman. If there was any consensus to get the movie switched to something different, knowing the concerns that have been stated. Just asking if there would be a consensus in the commission to do that or not, so.
Nope.
I don't think there is, but I also think, you know, yes, there has been some concern. But if people are really concerned, there should be a whole lot more concern being directed at us than there is. You know, the amount of concern, the number of people who have said, you know, we should not show this movie. is pretty minuscule compared to the population of the city. You know, so if folks are really concerned about it and they really want it to happen, they've got to tell us very forcefully, no, do not show this movie. And if it doesn't happen, then, you know, we're supposed to be representing all the people. If 4% of the people say, don't show this movie, well, we've got to represent the other 96% too.
There's a lot of people who already signed up and
Yeah,
they're looking forward
And
to it.
paid the
they're-
money.
They're saying it right there on social
Yeah.
media, they're saying they're looking forward to it.
yeah.
Anyway.
That's,
That's all I got right now.
Only thing, I know you're gonna say something about this too, but today, you know, it was a real honor to be every year at the International, Government Day for the international students. And I, you know, I got to meet some really, really great people there. And I shared with one officer the IRIS app for our buses to tell him, you know, you can use this for, I know a lot of them just have one car.
Sure.
Your wife can use it and, you know, go to the store and do other stuff with it. So, he immediately started. I went back to his table a little while later and they're all on their phones installing the IRIS app. So he said, I'm gonna take charge of this. And I said, oh, you're already the leader of the class, I can tell. Anyway, so he's gonna share the app with everybody, so. But I think it's a great opportunity, because so many times, some of the officers don't even drive, you know, in their own countries, so it would be difficult to get a vehicle here, and to be able to have something, you know, where they can get around town. Unfortunately, they can't go on and off post, but they have other options for that, so. Anyway, it was a real joy to do that.
yeah, it was great, and definitely want to give a shout out to our city manager for providing the students an update on the city overall. And then Sister Vicky, I'm sorry, Vicky
Sister
Cobbs. Commissioner, great job. Like I said, thank you for being a part of it. You was able to hand out a coin on behalf of the county as well too, so it was great. It was a fun event, very exciting. 120 individuals came through. We shook hands and gave coins. It was great. It was fun.
Share your hand.
Yeah. So it's been a
Well,
long
your hand
day.
is now swollen, right?
But yeah, just thank you all. And just want to say, hey, stay safe. God bless, and have a great weekend.